All right, ladies and gentlemen, it seems all but official that Rocksteady is not working on a single-player Batman Arkham-style game. It's going to be a games-as-a-service multiplayer-style game, something along the lines of Avengers, Marvel's Avengers, the game. So, I mean, a lot of people are saying that it's Suicide Squad. I mean, we can go through this article very quickly of someone from Kinda Funny Games and the former editor of the former editor of Game Informer evidently said that it was a Suicide Squad game. Jason Schreier, when asked about it, and when people voice the concern that it's going to be a awful games as a service model, he talks about these games that are successful games as a service models to basically ease people's concerns, and also surreptitiously confirming that it is a Suicide Squad game. And we've heard from a lot of other people besides these two that it's a games as a service multiplayer game, which had us thinking like, well, it's not Green Lantern, it's not Green Arrow, it's not Superman, then what is it? It's got to be some team-based game. And most people thought either Suicide Squad or Teen Titans, and with the Suicide Squad game coming out alongside the movie in 2021, this seems pretty much all but confirmed 95% likely that this is a Suicide Squad Rocksteady game. And I don't want to focus so much on the Suicide Squad part. I think that's part of it, but I really feel that this is kind of beneath Rocksteady. Rocksteady is such an iconic studio at this point already, just through these 3 games, because they were that good. Revolutionized combat, and they revolutionized telling stories in superhero video games. Before that, we had these awful Spider-Man games. Some were good and the other half were awful, especially once Activision started getting a hold of them, which now might happen to Batman Arkham, which is just concerning. It is something to consider. And it's not the Suicide Squad thing that I'm frustrated about. It's that a games as a service multiplayer type game just seems beneath them. I just thought that they were at this Naughty Dog level where, like, imagine Naughty Dog announced that they were making a games as a service game instead of Uncharted or The Last of Us or some epic story that's coming after that. I just felt that Rocksteady was way above a games as a service multiplayer game. Granted, they did make a FPS as their first game. It was a police game where you played as a police officer, which of course now would be considered offensive or something. But I mean, it's just interesting how the studio has gone from making shooter games to then making this iconic Batman Arkham franchise, and then kind of staying within that same vein of DC Comics, but really, in my view, objectively taking a bit of a step back in terms of their game repertoire. As I said, I make the Rockstar and the Naughty Dog comparison. You've got to compare these guys to the best studios, and I thought that they were on that level, but this seems like a big step back to me that someone like Rockstar or someone like Naughty Dog, you would not see them take. You will never see Naughty Dog make a games as a service multiplayer game. It'll never happen. They will always be known as this incredible storytelling studio, and they're going to do something else after The Last of Us and Uncharted. They're going to create this new thing of whatever that will be, and that will probably be incredible as well, and just shake the entire world, and everyone will talk about it. And I want Rocksteady to be at that level, and it's possible they will be. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen the game yet, so I'm not saying this is 100% a disaster and Rocksteady's over or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying anything. I don't even know 100% that it is, and certainly if it is a Suicide Squad game, I haven't seen a trailer. Maybe there is a single player. Maybe it will be the best video game ever made. I have no idea. But, I mean, let's be real. If it's how we're kind of expecting it's going to be, it's a bit of a letdown. They could have made Superman, and that was their dream game, and of course the rumors are that WB was not a fan of that, and then everyone freaks out. They're like, oh no, WB might sell Rocksteady. And it's like, yeah, they might sell them to someone that actually allows them to make the games that they want to make. It doesn't sound like a bad thing to me. That doesn't sound like a disaster. That doesn't sound like the worst thing in the world, excluding people don't get laid off, of course. But that's certainly reasonable. I'm going to make another video on this too, because a lot of people were talking about this on Twitter today, but the Batman Arkham games are not perfect. And they evolved so much from Arkham Asylum to Arkham City. The gameplay and the world and the side missions and all of that evolved so much. And from City to Night, the gameplay evolved even further with the Batmobile and more fluid transversal. And the biggest evolution between City and Night was changing the comic book aesthetic into a movie, real world, real life kind of aesthetic where everything looks much more realistic. So they each evolved so much in so many ways, and we just want to see Rocksteady do that. But evolve in an upward trajectory. Their storytelling needs the biggest work, and they need to be making the most story-intense game that they've ever made. And to me, making a games as a service multiplayer game, whether it be Suicide Squad and whether it be incredible and a lot of fun to play or not, it seems like a bit of a cop-out. Their weakness, their fatal flaw was exposed. They know how to make an incredible combat system. Not even that. They know how to revolutionize combat in video games because they already did it. And they know how to make a compelling action superhero. They know how to make compelling action scenes, compelling fighting scenes. They know how to build a compelling open world. They've proven themselves in many ways, but they proved their fatal flaw with Arkham Knight. They proved that they can't tell a story. Not a very good one anyway, because as soon as Paul Dini left, it was visible. It was obvious. Every review, go back and read them. Every single review is like, the story and the writing is noticeably weaker in this title. Noticeably. It was a substantial drop off from City to Night. There's no two ways about it. And that is what they need to work on. They do not need to run away from that. And they don't need to say, oh, I guess people didn't like it when we made our own story. Let's make a multiplayer game. No. You need to face that shit head on and figure that out and pay for more, hire on some new writers and figure out why that was the case. Why was the story for Knight not as compelling as when Paul Dini wrote it? Why did you feel that you could do that on your own without having Paul Dini there? These are the most important questions, and this is what they need to be looking at. So it's not that I think that the Suicide Squad is beneath these guys. It's not that I think the Suicide Squad, there's something inherently wrong with making a Suicide Squad game. It's that I don't see the roadmap of Rocksteady becoming in that pantheon of the most iconic game development studios that are around right now. I don't see the path to get to that status going this direction, going the direction they're going in. The biggest problem with the Arkham games as a whole, going more widescreen, is that there are not very many sentimental character moments. There are a few at the end of Arkham Knight. There are a few with, when people you think are dying, that's kind of sad, and you save some of your Bat family members in Arkham Knight, but on the whole, there are very few moments where there are genuine interaction between the Bat family members. And it's because the Batman Arkham games, they focus way too much on the villain and the plot and what the villain is trying to do, and Batman stopping that plot. You're going from one place to another, disable this tower, go here, go fight this guy, beat up this other guy now. Oh, now this other villain, go beat him up. And then disable this thing. And, it has a good cadence to it. It's very fun. It's very action-packed. The pace moves very quickly. It's the type of game you can play in one sitting. You can easily play Batman Arkham City in one sitting. And it's just that type of game. And it's both a strength and a negative. The drawback of it is that you don't really have these strong character moments that feel like something out of a movie. That's really the difference between a game like Spider-Man PS4. When you replay Spider-Man PS4, you're like, wow, God, we have to go to Feast again? How many times have we been there? How many times do I have to talk to this old hag Aunt May? And then when you're playing Batman Arkham Knight, at least for me, I'm just like, wow, when are we going to get to hang out with Barbara Gordon and Dick Grayson and just talk and see how these characters interact, or just hang out in the Batcave with Alfred? Why are we not getting any of these scenes? Why is every conversation in this game about the Joker, the Arkham Knight, or these other people? Why can't these conversations just be about the characters that we like and want to get to know? That's the fatal flaw of the Arkham games. They're rushed. It creates a positive and a negative. The positive is that they're very fun. You can play through them very quickly, and the pace and the tensity, the tension is off the charts. And then the drawback is that they sometimes feel devoid of a lot of emotion, especially compared to something like Spider-Man PS4, and certainly compared to, The Last of Us or The Last of Us 2 or these types of games. The storytelling is not as strong. So that's really the thing with this game. They need to learn from Spider-Man PS4. They need to learn, frankly, from The Last of Us and these types of games, and incorporate more of these scenes and put more of a focus on the story. And we still want great action and comic book moments. We want that type of stuff. We don't want, some artsy-fartsy, plot or something stupid like that. But I just think that they could lean into their deficiencies a little bit more and really address them if this is a Suicide Squad game. Of course, this is all assuming that it is a Suicide Squad game. It could be something entirely different. A lot of people have asked me, what do you want the game to be? Again, their dream game is Superman. That's what they feel passionate about. passionately about. That's what they want to do, and it's such an incredible feat that, if I'm working on a Superman game for 4 years, I just want to prove to everyone that you can make a great Superman game. And that, honestly, the fact that people say all the time that you can't make a great game, I'm the type of person that, for me, if I'm working on the game, that would motivate me even harder to make the game absolutely perfect and make the best video game ever made. Because a Suicide Squad game is not going to have the same level of anticipation as a Superman game, because so many kids have that feeling of like wanting to be Superman. It's just this thing within all of us. I mean, frankly, even me, I can remember like going on walks when I was 19 and like after just seeing Man of Steel, and you kind of just like look up into the sky and you're like, oh, that'd be kind of cool if I could just fly right now, shit like that. And especially when you're obviously like 10 or 11, you feel that way even more, and you might even pretend that you're fucking flying. So, that type of thing is the allure of a Superman game. It's that Superman, besides the McDonald's arch logo, is the most recognizable symbol in human history. Really, I mean, like it's in the top 3 of most recognizable symbols next to the McDonald's arch. And as a result of that, you can go anywhere in the world and show that symbol, and you want to play as this guy? I mean, everybody knows him. Every single person in the entire world knows who Superman is. Even people in different countries, even people that don't have internet. It's a very interesting phenomenon of that character and how important he is to the world. But when you give people the opportunity to play as that thing that is just so iconic to the entire world, that is a much bigger deal than Suicide Squad. It's just much more profound. A Superman game would mean more to all of us than a Suicide Squad game ever will. And for that reason, I would love to see Rocksteady tackle a Suicide Squad game. And this is exactly what I'm saying. I mean, everyone freaks out and throws a fit when we talk about selling Rocksteady to EA. But maybe EA understands the point that I'm making. And they're like, I mean, Jesus, like, yeah, sure, a Superman game is going to be harder to make. But let's think about this here. A well-made Superman Rocksteady video game is going to absolutely kill it and might be the best video game ever made. It literally might be one of the top 5 best-selling video games of all time, next to Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 3, and these other juggernauts, because so many people want to experience that euphoria of playing this such a well-crafted Superman game. And there's never been a good one before. Not one. And people are like, oh, what about this game on Nintendo 64? No, that was bad too. They were all awful, like, without any exception. Trust me. So, as a result of that, Rocksteady has this impossible task before them. And I would have given them the extra year or two and the extra money to try to overcome those challenges, because I believe in that studio. And that's what frustrates me, is when I feel like they're being shortchanged and Warner Brothers is holding them back. And then everyone whines and complains about how Warner Brothers is going to sell them to Activision. It's like, maybe Activision understands Rocksteady's potential, and maybe they're not little chickens and taking it out on them, on Rocksteady, and saying, oh, well, we don't want you to shut down. Like, Rocksteady's not going to shut down. Rocksteady is not WB Games Montreal. They're not going to have a million projects canceled. Let them put their mind to it. They made Arkham City in under 2 years, for crying out loud, which is one of the best video games ever made. They made it in less than 2 years with 100 employees. So that team is so talented. And the last thing you want is people leaving it because they can't make the games that they want to make. Of course, this is all a rumor that they were not allowed to make the Superman game, but I believe it. I mean, I really do. You've got to think from WB's perspective. They just had that Suicide Squad game canceled at WB Montreal. They had already canceled 2 iterations of the Batman game, a Damian Wayne version of the game, and now they're back to a regular Bruce Wayne Batman that's evidently not related to the Arkham games. So they've had so many cancellations, and that studio has cost hundreds of millions of dollars to operate, even amidst not turning a profit. And then Rocksteady comes to you and says, we want to make a Superman game. And you just think to yourself, oh my God, what a nightmare. This game is going to enter development hell, which frankly, if I'm being totally honest, the game would have entered development hell. If they were making Superman game, we would not be seeing it in 2020. We would be seeing it in 2022 or 2023. And you think, that's 8 years. And it's like, yes, exactly. That's the thing. It would be 8 years to make a Superman game, maybe 10. Realistically, 8. But you can't make a Superman game in 3 years. You can make a Suicide Squad game in like, I guess they're at 5 years now, actually. So I mean, you're looking at a 5-year game for Suicide Squad, and it would certainly have been 8 or 9 for Superman. And frankly, part of me thinks, what's taking so long? If it's really a games as a service multiplayer game, we had to wait 5-6 years for that. Over the 5-year anniversary of Batman Arkham Knight. Actually, we're approaching it. It's June 23rd, right? June 23rd of 2015, and we're now approaching June 23rd of 2025. So 5 years, I think that we are going to be getting the game announcement at the DC FanDome event. They're making a lot of changes over at Warner Brothers that are ultimately going to be very good for us. Finally going to have the investment that we've wanted from them and the time, because they need the money. So it's kind of nefarious, but they were pity-pattering around with their movies and their games for, half a decade at this point, and they're wondering why they're broke. It's like, dude, we haven't seen any movies from you guys. You released Shazam, and you released the 17th DC Lego game, and you're wondering why you're bankrupt. It's just absurd. Like, obviously, you haven't released a good game in years. Years and years and years. So, of course, you're going bankrupt. You canned the DCU at the first sign of problem and just nuked it all, got rid of of course you're going bankrupt. And it's just so, I just don't understand why this is such a shock to people. And I also don't understand why it's such a big deal that Rocksteady might be owned by another publisher that, by the way, lets them and empowers them to achieve what they're trying to achieve. Or they could corporatize it and make it even worse and be even worse than Warner Brothers. I don't know, but let's try to be optimistic about this here. And we're going to get the reveals for both of these games in 2 months. So feeling pretty good about that. We're about 64 days out. So thank you all so much for watching. My name is Slickmoff. See you guys in the next one, and peace out.